Evening, everybody. It's now 7:33, so we're going to call the school committee meeting to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's great to hear all the kids' voices out there.
I love that part, yeah.
It's wonderful.
Okay.
This is why we're here.
Great. So do I?
No, just say the first order.
Okay, the first order of business is that we're going to have a public hearing on school choice for the school year 2018 to 2019.
I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Excellent. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained, 7-0-0.
So, each year, the school committee is required to take a vote on whether or not to be a school choice community. School choice communities accept students in where they may have capacity within classrooms, where they don't overcrowd classes, classrooms, or where they can they can predict a reasonable amount of space within a building. So last year we did accept we did vote to become a school choice community, and we opened it up to Boyden School, grades 2, 3, and 4. And I think because it was such a narrow scope that we didn't have any applicants. We did have a lot of inquiries for other grades, primarily at the high school, but in the other buildings we just don't have the capacity. We don't want to overburden teachers and increase class size for Walpole residents. So, having experienced kind of an experimental year, I'm recommending against becoming a school choice community next year. I think that the advantages, which is about $7,000 per pupil, do not outweigh the risk, because each student has individual educational needs, and we're more than willing and able to meet those needs of our own community. But I don't think we should do that for other communities at the expense of our own. So I'm recommending this evening that you vote against school choice. So I need a motion not to become a school choice community.
I agree with the rationale. I think that the amount of space that's available is pretty limited, and there is a risk related to it. So I'd make a motion to not be a school choice community for the 2018-19 school year.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? Opposed, abstained? 7-0-0.
I would make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Mrs. Gallivan, second by Mr. Breen. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained, 7-0-0. Excellent. And the next item that we have, and now you can weigh in, is the Walpole High Student Report by Maggie Jackson. Ms.
Hello,
Maggie.
everyone. My name is Maggie Jackson, junior at Walpole High. This past month, dance company performed Tabula Rasa, which turned out to be a great success both nights. What also has been a success has been spring sports, from baseball, softball, lacrosse, tennis, track, and to now women's golf. Everyone seems to be enjoying the season and continuing what Walpole does best. Tomorrow night at Walpole High School Auditorium at 6:30, the Humane Society will be hosting a movie night. All proceeds will be donated to local animal shelters. The Walpole District Art Show at the Walpole Public School will begin May 1st with an opening reception from 6:30 to 8:00 p.m. For the entire month of May, chosen artwork will be exhibited for all to see. The speech and debate team placed 9th out of 28 schools at their state final competition. A major event coming up is Film Fest. This year we have 12 films in many different genres. They will all be shown either on May 8th, 10th, or 17th. On May 17th, Film Fest refers to this night as the red carpet event, where the film crews dresses in their assigned colors, or fruits as they like to call it, and walks up the red carpet as many photos are taken. Another major event coming up is Prom, of course. It will be held Friday, May 18th at the Putnam Club in Gillette Stadium. Tickets started going on sale this week and will be sold until May 4th. Seniors are finishing up their final days at Walpole High School with Senior Assassin. For those who do not know, this is a competition in which those who participate are assigned a target by random whom they must kill by somehow squirting water on them. Many seniors enjoy this and use this competition as a way to connect to some for their last time in high school. Thank you, and that's all.
Thanks, Maggie.
Nicely done.
Really very informative report and exciting stuff going on there.
Sure is.
Seriously.
Thank you, and I'm sure you want to get ready for finals or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Thank
thank you
you.
very much. We
Okay.
appreciate it. Next item on the agenda, we have recognitions, the Walpole High School Choral Program.
And we're thrilled to welcome the high school concert chorus this evening. We have teacher Ashley Prickle to give us a little context and maybe a little history of the chorus. It's built up over the last couple of years, and maybe talk about the choral festival where you won the chorus won a silver medal. We're very proud of you, and it shows that Walpole students compete academically, in the fine arts, and on the athletic field. So,
Can I just talk from here? Or do you want me to go
I think, yeah, I think we'll lead you at the
We have
mic.
an audience.
So
We have
those
a
are
vast TV audience.
So I'm Ashley Prickle. I am the high school choral director at Walpole High, and this is my third year in the district, and it is our third year going to MICA, our second year going to this choral festival in a competitive sort of way. And so this year we earned a silver medal, and we don't have all of our members with us this evening, and for the tenors and basses who we do have tonight, I'm sure you're going to enjoy their performance. They're holding down the fort on their own. And the first small excerpt that we're going to perform for you is called Bogorodice Dievo, and we performed that at the festival. It's one of our more formal pieces. It's in Russian, and then they're going to follow it up with a Nova Scotian rollicking sort of tune that is one of their favorites. We didn't bring this to festival, but we did it at our spring concert. So
Excellent.
thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Grandpa was in the war, and when he came back to Nova Scotia, he had a bride in tow who had no English, but yes and no, sir.
What made her leave her home to be with someone she hardly knew? How she must have hated to feel alone. She must have cried when the day was through, when the day was through.
This was a part of earth where you could hold one to one, you know.
Hold on to one
This
another.
was a line of work, where the whole town was like your
Ah,
brother.
but now it's getting hard to say. The children move to a bigger city, and there is really nothing you can say. But what a shame, and what a pity. Haven't got a notion go. And isn't it so just how much we owe? We love the land that watched our parents grow. When life goes travel slow
and hard, but deep and proud,
was the life we once were long. We tossed on, never to be bound. Dealing with the ocean when your Nova Scotian turns into a sailaway of water. Dealing with the ocean when your Nova Scotian turns into a sound of
Grandpa was in the war
when we came back to Nova Scotia.
He had a bride and
She had no English, but yes and no. So does me of discouragement.
How she must have hated to be alone. She must have cried when the day was gone.
No one's in doubt that the children singing, all too soon shall be women and men, and the Kenny old land that we never could command, he'll roll to the ocean again.
That was amazing.
Seriously.
Really, really amazing. Thank you. Is there anything else you wanted to say, or?
I think we should also mention the students took up a collection for Boston Children's Hospital, so they've also worked for charity, and we're very proud of our young people, and I hope the young students in the audience have something to aspire to. We'd love to see you in the chorus.
Awesome.
Bill?
Thank you for that
job.
performance.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr.
Oh, yeah, wait.
I'll defer to Nancy first.
I just wanted to ask, are you doing a Pops performance? Or
Yes, please do come to our pop concert. Sarah told me, oh, microphone.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
On Wednesday, May 23rd, the
Great.
Walpole High School Pops concert featuring concert chorus, camerata, band, concert band, orchestra, jazz band. I think that's it.
Great,
Excellent.
thank you.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Bill, did you have something?
Through you, Madam Chair, tonight I'd like to sing my comments. 3 more years I'm unopposed. You guys are stuck with me. I apologize. I wanted to say something actually really profoundly serious, so I started with a joke. I'm just so happy to have you all here. I was a member of the Walpole High School concert choir. It was the reason I ran for school committee. I felt so profoundly, strongly about our music department and our arts department. And one of the first things I did when I got here was we had the 3 levels of cuts, and we viciously cut the music program, which broke my heart. And much like a vine that you trim and then it flowers again, I feel so profoundly happy to see the program has come back, and to know that even though we may not have given you the best opportunity for music in the younger grades when these cuts happened, I'm just so grateful to see the program growing, to continue to grow, to see you go into MICA, which was something we never do when I was a senior back 15, 16 years ago. And I'm so happy to see that there's so many of you, that many of you, I'm sure, are kind of cross-pollinated throughout the arts, whether it be the performing arts, the dance arts, or the fine arts. And just thank you so much for coming here. I've been waiting for years to see the chorus here, so you definitely made my night, and I'm very profoundly grateful for you all for sharing your talents with us. Thank you very much.
Well said, Bill.
Okay. Thanks again.
Thank you, folks.
The next item on the agenda is the middle school language program students Quebec trip.
Yes, we have Principal Hahn, who will join us this evening. Oh, okay. With the kids. So quiet. Used to performing.
No, they're very polite.
Good.
Good evening. My name is Caitlin Afan, and I'm the French teacher at Johnson Middle School. I'm here tonight with Valerie Lucas, the French teacher from Bird Middle School, and a few of our students. Erin Ledwith and Derek Buchanan from Johnson, and Kate Stanton and Matt McLaughlin from Bird. Every year we take our 8th grade French students on a trip to Quebec. The trip allows students to immerse themselves in another culture and to practice French in an authentic situation. Tonight, our students are going to share with you some of their experiences from the trip, what they learned from their visit to Quebec, and how they used their French skills on the trip. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Erin Ledwith. I have taken French for 3 years now, and one of my favorite memories, and still my favorite memory, is going to Quebec. When I got to Blackburn Hall at 5:30 in the morning, I was terrified, but also ecstatic. It was my first time going outside the country without my parents. I met my friends on the bus and said goodbye to my mom. I sat with my friends and we sang songs, told stories, and played games all the way to Quebec. It may have been a long 10-hour ride, but it was fun. One of my favorite parts of the trip was seeing all the wonderful winter imagery. Quebec is such a pretty city and I love seeing all the sights. Another one of my favorite things is the restaurants there. I am a very picky eater, but I found that they had a bunch of options for me to eat, and the restaurants were also extremely decorated and very beautiful, so I also love that. One of my other favorite activities was going to an ice hotel and then tubing down an 80-foot slide. It was scary, but it was so much fun. Another favorite part of going to Quebec was learning all the history of Quebec. Between the geography and history of Quebec, I learned so much about it that I never knew before. They also made fun, including a rifle demonstration, which I was a part of. We also went to the Sugar Shack or Cabin à Sucre. We sang and danced all night to a very energetic singer. We learned traditional French songs, but we also sang songs that we knew. To end the trip, we took a ferry ride across the St. Lawrence River. We mostly used French when purchasing items at restaurants or souvenirs. It was very helpful to learn French in Quebec, and I'm glad I learned it. Going to Quebec with all my friends was one of my favorite trips of all time, and I wish I could do it again. Thank you, Madame Afan, for the opportunity for me to go to Quebec, and thank you for listening. Merci et bonsoir.
Hello everyone, my name is Derek Buchanan, and today I'm here to explain to all of you some of the most amazing experiences I had in Quebec. To start off, we got off the bus at Blackburn Hall at 5:30 in the morning, and then for about 10 hours we drove up to Quebec. During the bus ride, I got to know a lot more about people that I didn't talk to that much. When we got to the border, we had a very serious passport check that was actually kind of fun. One of my most interesting things that I saw when I found out was that KFC is actually PFK in Quebec. I thought this was super cool, as an American-based restaurant was not Kentucky Fried Chicken, but actually Poulet Frites Kentucky. We used French while buying food and shopping by asking how much things were and paying for them. Then we went to my favorite part of the trip, which was snow tubing. For about 3 hours, we went down 80-foot slides in snow tubes. That was so much fun because of the adrenaline and the bonding that I had with my friends. After that, we went to a Sugar Shack, which we listened to a live performance and ate a lot of unique food. We learned about the history of Quebec City and its geography. Then we went tobogganing for about 45 minutes, which was insanely fast and amazing. The last thing we did was take a ferry through the St. Lawrence River and then back to the bus. In the end, this was one of my favorite trips I have ever taken outside of America. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Hi, I'm Kate Stanton. While on the trip to Quebec, I had a chance to get to know other Bird Middle School students who I hadn't spent time with outside of school before. I made several new friends with whom I now talk to on a daily basis. It was a well-organized itinerary packed with fun and adventure. Over the 3 days, we went to see the ice and snow sculptures, visited 2 museums about the French Revolution, dined in authentic French restaurants, and went tubing at the largest winter sports facility in North America. Leading up to the trip, we learned a lot of new vocabulary words that we could use in Quebec. For example, we learned the French names of many foods and how to use them in sentences to order at a restaurant. During the trip, we kept a journal in French of what we did each day. I had many favorite memories from the trip, such as visiting the ice hotel, where everything, including the beds and furniture, was made of ice. Another favorite of mine was when we visited the Sugar Shack for dinner and learned how maple syrup was made. One of the greatest learning experiences from our trip to Quebec was that we had the ability to speak French with native French-speaking people. While tobogganing, we met other French-speaking kids that live in Quebec. They also spoke English, and we got to ask some questions about life in Quebec. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Matt McLaughlin. I went on the Quebec trip this year with Bird Middle School. The Quebec trip was a combination of 2 years of French that we learned, and all of the words that we had learned prior to this trip were used inside of Quebec. The chaperones that accompanied us on the trip were very helpful and kind and kept us safe before them, and they wanted to learn just as well as we did. I don't think they came out the trip earlier? Like a year before, years past? Oh, they have, but and some of them have. Okay. The companies that took us in, the tour guide company provided us with Nicola, who was a very nice French tour guide who had grown up in Quebec. And the bus driver company, we had a very nice, sweet bus, and the bus driver was very polite to us and kind. All of the words and facts that we had learned in 7th and 8th grade were used somehow in the Quebec trip, and words that I had forgotten about in the Quebec or in 7th grade, I relearned in Quebec as I heard people on the streets talk about them, vendors, Nicola. It was exposure to new people, cultures, activities, and foods. I found myself, when we were tubing, that was my favorite memory, hanging out with people that I had never really talked to in my 3 years at Bird Middle School. I still talk to them on a daily basis. And the new activities, we went tobogganing on a place the toboggan slide has been up for 100 years, I think, close to 100 years. We saw pictures of that thing. It's a great tradition that they have in Quebec. And I tried a croque monsieur, which is a French sandwich with cheese, and it was very good. So we got exposed to their culture. And it changed my view on French. I kind of been blinded. I thought English was kind of like a primary language, and I went to Quebec and I heard all these people that didn't really know English well, and we got to see them all speaking French, thinking that's just something that we learned in school. Never think that it would actually apply to us in the future. So, thank you.
And I just want to conclude how proud I am with all my students. Not only the ones who have come here tonight, but also the ones who sang tonight. I recognize 11 of my former students in that group.
Nice.
And they're singing in Russian, and so they're using all their language skills, and I love that. And I love that the students, every time we take them out, they get a new experience. So I want to also thank you for allowing us to go every year. We've done this for many, many years, and I think that every year I'm like, oh yes, there's another advantage of going to Quebec and for the kids. And I'm grateful that we are able to give that to the kids in 8th grade. So thank you very much.
Yeah,
and
thank
you
you.
for coming.
Great job.
We should also thank the teachers for sacrificing their time from their families and going above and beyond. Like many of our teachers, they care about our kids, and not only are they professional, but they're caring.
Yeah.
And our students all have a future in public speaking. We have a speech competition team you could join.
Great
Thank
job,
you very
guys.
much.
Great job. Good night.
Thanks, folks. I thank the parents for paying for it.
And the next item on the agenda is new business, Bird Middle School, Johnson Middle School, out-of-state field trip request to Canopy Lake Park.
if I could just say, well, I actually went on the Quebec trip this year. And one thing that was just absolutely incredible, and it seems obvious, but it's a nice reminder, is how just fantastic our students are. I mean, they just, the teachers put so much work making sure it's a great trip. But it's a nice reminder to go on those trips to just realize how lucky we are to work in a great district with those incredible kids. So they probably could have gone with 2 chaperones, frankly. They were that good. But there was a lot more than 2. It was 1-to-10 ratio. All right, so we are here. Dr. Groff and I are here for our yearly request to go to Canopy Lake Park with our 8th grade students. It's part of this 8th grade celebration week, the last week of the 8th grade year, and it goes along with our commencement exercises, with our dance, and it's really just a wonderful 4 or 5 days to celebrate some fantastic students in their 8th grade and final year at the middle school.
So it's as you can see, a 1-to-10 ratio, and we have the approximate cost of $50. No student will be turned away due to financial hardship, so we'll make sure that will happen. And it really encompasses the trip and the whole end of the year celebration.
So the trip is self-funded, and the students either work in their home doing chores or et cetera, or the parents pay, and there's no cost to the taxpayer. I think that students have worked hard throughout their middle school career, as the teachers and administrators have, and it's nice to celebrate success, and I would recommend this trip highly.
Nancy?
I would make a motion to approve, do you want them separately? The Bird Middle School trip to Canopy Lake Park on June 19th.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Gallivan, second by Mr. Breen. All those in favor? Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent.
Bribe me.
Opposed, abstained, 7-0-0.
I would make a motion to approve the Johnson Middle School trip to Canopy Lake Park on the same date.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Gallivan, second by Mr. Breen. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained, 7-0-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
I think they get to study physics on this, too.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember hearing that as a rationale once. A roller coaster is physics.
And hopefully I'll feel sick off the,
Trying to figure out
That's
how
biology.
that would happen.
yeah.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is vote to ratify an MOA between the school committee and the union.
And I would request School Business Administrator Mr. Frischer join us to provide us some details, and commend Mr. Frischer for handling the negotiations without legal counsel. He did confer with legal counsel, who dotted the i's and crossed the t's, but Mr. Frischer has really stepped up, and we appreciate his work in negotiating this contract. So, Mr. Frischer.
Okay. So included in your packet are the details of the memorandum of agreement. But just to highlight, it was a very cordial negotiating sessions that we had. It only took 3, and that includes the ground rules, which is just a kind of formal 1 meeting. So very quick, we got right down to business. I was joined by Maria Hall as a cafeteria representative. And so I'd like to thank her, Jane Ellen Walsh, Jackie Groden, and Mary King, who's for the teacher aides. It's the first time we've had a teacher aide representative at the table, so that was nice. Scott Manson, who's a union VP, and he's a head custodian at Boyden School. And Darren Vito, who works in the water department for the town, is the union president. So amongst this small group, we were able to get it done relatively quickly. Again, I think it was a very reasonable agreement. We stayed within the parameters that you defined, and came up with something that we can sustain over the long run, and that I think both sides kind of agree with. Everyone wasn't completely happy, but it was a good ending to it, and people were satisfied with what the final conclusion was. But I'd be happy to answer any particular questions you might have about the agreement.
So just a couple of points before questions. This is a self-funded contract through the school nutrition program. It's paid for through our business model with meal prices. It calls for a cost of living of 2%, 2%, and 1.5%. There is minor language changes with personal days and sick leave buyback, as well as contract changes for the number of days per month for PTO. So we've come a long way with this bargaining unit. They have been very flexible over the years, and we are finally in the black with this program. So this contract is sustainable. It will not take an appropriation from the town. So I would recommend approval of the contract for the ASME Council 93, Local 1957 teacher aides and cafeteria unit.
I'd just like to say that's a huge accomplishment, what you just mentioned. You know, the fact that it is sustainable, that it's self-supporting, and it's a challenge to have gotten to that point. And, you know, I think it's worth celebrating the work that you both have done, because, you know, this is in the age where you have to work within strong, good nutritional boundaries and, you know, in addition to that, keep up with all the details of running a business like that. So it's a big accomplishment.
And Maria Hall deserves a lot of credit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Service director. Now we call it school nutrition because we've stepped up a notch. She's done an incredible job.
And the employees too. You know, they seem to be very, very professional,
Exactly.
the limited number of times that I see them. But I would be glad to make a motion to approve the contract for, it's a 3-year contract, Mike?
It is, yeah.
Okay, a 3-year contract for the cafeteria workers and the teachers' aides.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Gallivan, second by Mr. Breen. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained, 700.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. And thank you for your
work,
hard
Mike.
work on that. That's fantastic. Next up, we have old business, 2018-19 school year calendar adjustment.
Yes, I'm recommending a tweak to the school calendar. It does not change the structure of the calendar. However, traditionally, we have had the kindergarten attend the school one day, finish the school year one day sooner than grades 1 through 11. I'm recommending, through the elementary principal's recommendation to you, through me, I'm recommending that we extend that one more day, increase time in learning. This really, with full-day kindergarten, even though it's tuition-based, there really is no need to end the school year a day early. We used to end a day early because the last day was a half-day, and if you have 2 half-day sessions of kindergarten, it didn't really make a lot of sense. So now with a full day, we get the full day in with the kindergarten kids, and I think it's important we get them on cycle with grades 1 through 11. So I'm recommending this adjustment to the school calendar beginning in September. And we'll need a motion.
I make a motion to amend the school year calendar for 2018 and 19 as discussed.
Second. Motion by Mr. Ryan, second by Mrs. Muccini. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained, 700.
Excellent.
And next up, we have an inventory of current initiatives for social emotional learning.
Dr. Kenny will join us, and she will explain our current initiatives on social emotional learning with our students. It is an important topic these days, and I appreciate Dr. Kenny joining us this evening.
Not at all. Thank you for having me. You'll see in one of the forms you received in your packet that we have multiple programs that we utilize across all grades, pre-K through 12, some of which are curriculum-oriented, others are extracurricular, others are also programs. So what's important is that we start at the pre-K level, and social emotional learning is one of many factors that enable students to access curriculum, enable students to be successful in all that they do. It was recognized formally by the U.S. Department of Education in the Education Reform Act and the new Act that replaced No Child Left Behind, Every Student Succeeds Act, requires that every state, in submission of its plan, focus on the social emotional learning of all of its students. We've been doing it for many years, but now we're recording it and quantifying it. We have programs such as Second Step, which begins teaching social skills to students, and it began several years ago as an anti-bullying program, but has evolved as more being respectful, kind, recognizing emotions of other students, and determining the responses that students should have with other people. Our elementary guidance counselors 2 years ago spent the summer developing a very comprehensive curriculum that was focused on social emotional skills. They offer multiple classes and opportunities for students to learn in the class and then apply their skills. In addition, they meet with small groups, they meet with students out on the playground, and in multiple ways communicate how students should behave towards each other, how they should behave toward themselves, actually. We've also initiated training across all elementary levels in responsive classroom, which is a program that has been highly recognized for many years. And we trained 35 people last year. We have 32 people scheduled this year. All of our special educators and many of our regular educators have been trained in social thinking, which also permeates all areas of the class. You will note, the schools, you will note that virtually all of our schools have developed core values that they communicate, and every one of those core values incorporates a form of social emotional learning. Zones of regulation, these are names that you will hear your students talk about. In the recent history too, the Walpole Public Schools guidance staff at the high school have developed a much more comprehensive curriculum rather than focusing only on students accessing college acceptance. We have leadership teams that are facilitated by students to enable other students to become leaders, to work with problem solving, and many, many areas across the across all of the schools. In addition, we have sponsored many other programs through the year for all grade levels, middle school, high school. Most notably, we've associated with the Karen organization, who have been very, very helpful for us in our Coalition for Alcohol and Drug Awareness, but they've also done a great deal of work on social relationships, social media, and cyberbullying, all of which are encompassed under that umbrella. Each of the schools has a way of identifying students who may or may not be part of groups, who may be excluded, and the counselors, the teachers, and the principals are working to incorporate those students in multiple activities. One of the things that we heard from Dr. Englander, who presented to parents and students on Tuesday night, is that it is very important to have your students build relationships with multiple factions, multiple groups, and many other interests from which they may previously have been engaged. Missing in your packet, but I'll make sure you get that via email, is all of the list of the social programs that Johnson Middle School categorized by month. And they were focused on positivity across all areas, positive images around the school, small groups engaging other small groups. And that's part of the extensions programs at both middle schools. So there's a great deal that has been done, But as we know, and we live it daily, there's a great deal that needs to continue to be done. And yes, actually, Ms. Muccini, you've sent us a lot of very good resources that we've been able to engage many of our staff members in terms of social issues, mental health issues, because they are really all interconnected. We did meet with Dr. Elizabeth Englander, who made an emphatic presentation on Tuesday night. She did just send me the slides, so I will give those to you for all of those parents who were not able to attend to see. As a result of that meeting, several parents approached me and said that they would like to meet as a group to form some ideas about how we can work together as a community. Interestingly enough, we had already reached out to Spark Kindness Organization, which is a group that began in Natick, based on a parent group that decided they wanted to do something. So we're meeting with them tomorrow. Representatives from every school are meeting with them. And once we determine their plan and their steps forward, we'll be engaging other members of the community. So there's a lot of work going on, but we know that there's a great deal that we will continue to need to do and expand upon.
Fantastic.
Questions? You're all
So
set.
as part of my report, I was going to speak about the evening, but you've just mentioned Dr. England. And no, I'm glad you did, because I just leaned over and said we should combine the two. But I know one of the recommendations Dr. England had was for students to get involved in different groups, to make friends beyond a certain small circle of friends. And I think tonight we saw the chorus with about 25 kids here, which is only half the kids that participate. And we have the speech team, robotics. We had the Quebec trip. A couple of the students mentioned meeting new people.
Exactly.
They speak with every day. So I think this is important that we continue to support fine and performing arts, all the extracurricular activities which we've tried to reinstate. And I know some of it's fee-based, but at least it's very vibrant at the high school and at the middle schools, as well as the elementary schools. So, you know, we're always willing to listen to new activities for kids. And if we can get enough kids involved, we'll hire a teacher or a specialist to work with students after school. You know, we have homework clubs and chess clubs and debate clubs. And
one recent example of that is the gaming club that just began this year in November or December. That was a request made to Mr. Imbush, the principal, because there was not a club. And he said, if you can gather a group of people who are interested in that, we'll find a space for you, we'll enable you to meet. And now Mr. Bacall is the leader. He's
Excellent.
a teacher at the high school.
Yeah.
So that's something we didn't have before. And that appeals to a very different group of students for whom that opportunity was not available before. So, exactly.
That's great.
Jean, you mentioned meeting tomorrow. Are you meeting with the Spark group or are you meeting with the Walpole parents?
We're meeting with the Spark Kindness group tomorrow. And in my response to an email from one of the parents who attended on Tuesday night, I indicated that we were meeting with that group and that I would find out whether, in fact, we would be able to provide the opportunity for a much larger community group to meet with them, because that's
That would be
really
great.
our goal.
Yep, thank you.
I want to thank you for all you're doing with this, and I thought Dr. Englander's presentation was great the other night, and it was taped. So is that being rebroadcast, or how can people?
It wasn't actually
wasn't taped?
recorded,
Oh,
but she's sending us she sent me the slides this evening.
Okay,
So
I thought it was because I had seen Jim DiTilio in the.
he was there just to provide AV support,
okay.
so it was not broadcast.
I was going to say it'd be great there's some great slides. It'd be great
Yes.
for people to see, and I know it says what to do if your child's being bullied, but I was really impressed with a lot of her talk about social media and just how much it's affecting kids and social interactions and their brains and just how they interact with one another.
Exactly.
And so if that point could be made to parents, because the focus wasn't just bullying per se, and that's can be defined in so many ways by so many different people. It really was a much broader context that she talked about kids and how they're learning and how they're feeling socially and how much screens and social media are impacting
Exactly.
them. So if we can
And so one of
communicate
the handouts we gave was a survey that we had done among our own teenagers, our own peers, about the amount of time that they spend online. And she had indicated, because she had asked me to get a little bit of that data for her, and she had indicated in her talk about how that does impact. One of the parents met with me afterward outside and said, I loved the slide about the grass is always greener because it's fake. And she had asked if we could have a presentation similar to that to the children. We did have a presentation by one of Elizabeth Englander's fellows. She is a professor at Bridgewater State University. She is the founder of the Massachusetts Aggression Reduction Center, which was founded in 2004. And we've actually been working with her since 2002 when I was principal at Fisher. Because she wanted participants for some of her research, so we volunteered. So we've been working with her ever since, and she now has a large cohort of people who will go out and meet with schools and train students. So we've taken advantage of those opportunities. One of her fellows was most recently at the high school for 2 assemblies in the morning. They may not have used those exact slides, but something very similar. So as we were talking, as she concluded, she just said, I know I'll hear from you again, and we'll schedule some more opportunities with your students for most likely September. They're booked now through the end of the year. If you go on her website, you can see that there are multiple other parent presentations. There's actually one that we can send out to parents about that's in Medway. It'll be a very similar presentation to what she did.
And I think it's a great idea to have the fellow, I don't know, I'm assuming that person's younger, because it's the same parent. I spoke with her as well, and Nancy and I spoke. It's great for kids to hear from younger people and not their parents, and kids, and using more peers to talk to one another about this kind of information, because they can just hear it better. They're more receptive, so that's fabulous if we can do some of that.
We're planning it.
Yeah, I was thinking about it as I saw it on the agenda. I think that this is one of those topics that there's never an end to. And, you know, it was a great first step. I think the next thing that we need to do is engage more in a discussion kind of setting. You know, there was great information, but I think that there are people who want to be listened to, and people that have suggestions or further questions. So, you know, I think that it's just got to be an ongoing thing, and that's, you know, I think if you can just keep us apprised of what you learn from the Spark group, for example, I think is going to be really useful to us, because it was parent-driven, which is just a different focus. But I can't agree with Beth more about the fact that if there are ways for kids to talk to other kids, like we were talking about how at the film festival this year, one of the documentaries is going to be about overuse of cell phones. And it's kids who took on this topic, and the kids said that they themselves locked their cell phones in a suitcase, or, you know, some like I don't know, some device locked up for, I think it was 4 or 6 weeks, where they lived without it totally. And for another kid to hear about how it affected them stress-wise, I mean, I haven't seen the documentary, but I think that there's such opportunities when kids talk to other kids.
Through Spark Kindness, there are opportunities for kids, as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was invited by one of the parents who was at the meeting Tuesday night to participate in a group meeting with them. And I acknowledged that and said that I would, and also engaged the principals. I said, oh, they'll be there too, because they want to hear from the principals also, who are working daily with children. So we're looking forward to that. We'll keep you posted.
Yes, please do.
Thank you for all your hard work on this.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks, Jean.
Okay, next up, we have MSBA Statement of Interest update.
So the statements of interest were submitted on April 6th on time, and with all the bureaucratic nuances and hoops we had to jump through. We got all the signatures we needed, and thanks to Mike for putting that together. They're submitted electronically, MSBA acknowledged receipt, and we are back in the pipeline for consideration. We should hear if they will come out and visit our middle schools by next September, and then we'll know in December whether or not we're accepted into the grant program, which could mean millions of dollars, and the beginning of a study to look at all options. Look at construction, renovation, doing nothing, looking at land, looking at buildings. It's something that we need to engage as a community, and it's something we've been talking about for at least 4 years now.
Longer, yeah. Excellent.
Okay.
Next up, we have the Superintendent's Report. We already took care of the parent-student night, so next item is the circuit breaker.
So, since our last meeting, I am pleased to report that the House of Representatives did vote positively on a supplemental budget to increase funding for circuit breaker, which is a reimbursement account for local communities that began in 2004. It reimburses us 72% beyond the first $43,000 of the cost of a special ed program for an individual student. It amounts to over $1 million for Walpole this year. That was reduced by $200,000, or about 7% below what the law has asked. Funding at 75% beyond 4 times foundation, or $43,000. So I'm pleased to announce that. Tonight, the Senate was voting on a supplemental budget, and I believe I heard a text going off, and
Yeah.
maybe Mr. Buckley has some news for us.
So through you, Madam Chair, it's been a fun and long week at the State House, which is why I'm goofier than usual here, because I've been there very late. Senator Feeney did text me about 25 minutes ago. They were able to get the circuit breaker line item up to $12.5 million, which translates to 72.5% reimbursement rate, which is roughly the same amount of funds that the House did. There's also been some discussion about revenues because it's 2 weeks after the House took it up, and there is a tentative hope that there will be a second supplemental budget at the end of perhaps June that could take up not only FY18 but FY19 circuit breaker and fully fund them both. That's what Senator Tarr and Senator Feeney are talking about this evening, probably currently. So we're very happy in the FY19 budget. Circuit breaker, the House was able to get it north of 70, over and above what the governor had, which was the 65 number. So again, if we can get them both fully funded by, say, the close of the school year, or the close of the legislative session, that's going to be really huge for the town. And so we have a great team of folks working on that. We had some great folks up at the State House, yourself, Superintendent, Madam Chair, and Mrs. Gallivan, to advocate for this. It was yesterday, right? Was it yesterday? The MASC Day on the Hill, which we're always happy to have because they have really good food that day with the Veau Tech kids. Everybody impersonates a school committee member of the State House to get in the food line. But I think it really, in a much wider way, is very indicative of the fact and the discussions, in my day job, Rep. Rogers has been having with Ways and Means, discussions with my colleagues out socially, that the circuit breaker is now a thing, and it's being talked about at the level of urgency as, say, McKinney-Vento was talked about 4 or 5 years ago. And McKinney-Vento, when the legislature, through the leadership of Rep. Rogers and the former Senator Timilty, was declared a unfunded mandate by the auditor, there was a lot of focus on that, and I feel like we're especially for our community, McKinney Vento is less and less of a burden, that focus is rightly shifting to circuit breaker, and that discussion is rightly being focused on circuit breaker. So I think all those things are good news. Unfortunately, the process we had to go through in the first place was such, with supplemental budgets and 9 seat cuts to get where we began, but I'm really happy as a school committee member that we're going in a town meeting. We're not gonna have to, say, borrow from free cash, or we don't need an additional agenda item.
So long as the governor signs.
Right, so long as the governor signs.
the bill.
So I think all parties agree that I don't have it in front of me. I don't know if the numbers are exact or if the Senate is a little bit higher, but we're by no means going lower. So I think we can look at the House number as the baseline for what we know we're gonna get. And there's a possibility of getting even more to help us with closeout and to help us with next year, which is gonna be, I think, huge, because as we all know, we could have a move-in tomorrow or a move-in September 5th that could radically change the landscape of our budget. So all good news in the springtime. It's good stuff.
Thank you.
That concludes my report. Thank you, Mr.
Excellent.
Buckley.
And as for subcommittee reports, the first one was the Day on the Hill, which Bill just alluded to. For those of you in the vast listening audience who don't know what this is, it's a day when school committee members, superintendents, other their students, members of the public go up to the State House and they hear some presentations from MASC and some of the reps on advocacy. And we've been pretty effective, especially Nancy, and some of the high school students, I understand, have been working on this circuit breaker funding, and the union head. So we've had a lot of cooperation trying to exert pressure to get more recognition on the issue with circuit breaker and how things that are out of our control, such as a special education move-in, and it can really influence our budget. So by getting further funding, it's one of the areas that really helps us and make sure that we get resources for all the students. So we went up there and we talked to our reps, met with different people after we heard these presentations, and as Bill was reporting, due to our efforts, it sounds like, we're getting further circuit breaker money, so.
You guys can come up and bring food anytime you want.
There you go. Right. Excellent, so. All right. Anybody else? Okay. Next up, we have citizens' comments. No citizens are here, so we're moving to approval of warrants, donations, and minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the payroll warrants, S840A and S842A, for the amounts listed in your packets.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Sarek, second by Mr. Ryan. All those by Mr. Breen, sorry. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained, 7-0-0.
He's better looking than me.
I was looking down.
Not the same person.
Make a motion to approve the accounts payable warrants, 218041 and 218042, and also 218043 for the amounts listed in your packet.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Sarek, second by Mr. Breen. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained, 7-0-0. Donations? That'd be great.
I make a motion to approve the following donations and gifts to the Elm Street School PAC, from the Elm Street School PAC for BBOTS, technology, and recess supplies, a total of $1,310. To the Elm Street School and the Johnson Middle School from Bates State Textiles Incorporated Recycling, total of $86. To the Elm Street School again from the Town of Walpole Health Department, garden project supplies, they're getting their garden going, $250. And to the Bird Middle School from the State Street Foundation Matching Gift Program, Jill Texera, money for fun presentations and training docents for the middle school cultural programs, the amount of $3,000.
Great.
It's fabulous.
Second. I'll second.
Okay. So we have a motion by Mrs. Muccini, second by Mrs. Sarek. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained, 7-0-0. Want to take the minutes?
Sure.
Great.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the school committee regular meeting minutes from April 5th, as
Second.
provided in the packet.
Motion by Mr. Ryan, second by Mr. Buckley. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained, 700. Any others? That was it. Okay. Excellent.
Executive session?
No need for executive session.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Excellent. Motion by Mr. Breen, second by Ms. Scalvin. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained, 700.